The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Hello and welcome to another Soccer to the Max, as we are here to talk about the shellacking that the United States men's national team gave Honduras on Friday night. And we look ahead to the big game in Panama, as the United States now only have to get 1 point to possibly now be in qualification, depending on what happens in some of the other games. But, hey, rejoicing is always good. There's a small MLS slate we got to get through, and a big signing, world class, you might say, by the Chicago Fire that we got to get into as well. But hey, let's not just start this thing without giving our introductions. I am your host, Sean Garmer, and here with me today. He stopped getting his hair did to do this show, so you know it's got to be pretty special. Mr. Erik Watkins.
Not to mention, I've learned two valuable lessons. One, podcasts are a priority over the epic hair trademark. Two, now when the U.S. is playing, especially Honduras, never get up to get a snack. Go at halftime. Yeah.
Yeah, you certainly were going to miss something in this game. And, Rachel, you got to be feeling pretty good after that.
I don't know why I said I was worried. I apologize to my fellow national team fans. I looked like a scrub saying that I was worried. So I'm sorry, but I am so happy that they won. And you have to remember, they did it without Fabian Johnson and Bobby Wood and DeAndre Yedlin. So that definitely means something.
Yeah, certainly. Bigger class of MLS group doing it in this game. And it didn't take them very long, but they got on the score sheet quick and in a hurry, and it didn't end until they scored 6, plenty in each half. And, I don't think I would say that the U.S. would have won, and Josie Altidore is not even on the score sheet once. But that's what happened in this game, is Clint Dempsey gets 3, Christian Pulisic gets 2, and that's pretty much all you needed, really. But, Clint Dempsey, we were a little worried. I don't think we got to be worried about him anymore.
I'm not, and not to mention, when I saw the formations, and I was like, why is Honduras going with 5 at the back? That just screamed to me, okay, they're playing defense, they're hoping for a draw. And, well, after about 5 minutes, that disappeared. Once Leggett got that opener, Dempsey was like, all right, this is going to fly, you can crack this defense, and boom, here I go.
It's crazy to think that Clint Dempsey wasn't supposed to start that match. Because if Bobby Wood was there, it would have been Bobby Wood, Josie Altidore. Jordan Morris was to be healthy. It was probably going to be Jordan Morris and Josie Altidore. Clint Dempsey, I don't think they're going to have many debates on, like, say, Jordan Morris is healthy. Actually, no, he went back to the Sounders, so scratch that off. Even if Jordan Morris was healthy, I think they would definitely still have to start Dempsey. You'd have to give a pretty good reason not to.
Yeah, and I think another question everybody had was the where do you put Christian Pulisic? And you put him right there in the smack middle of midfield and running at people. And I think that's all he had to do, really, because he didn't really have to set up people. It was Josie setting people up.
But it does help that Pulisic was in a position to put out a few plates. And it's like, yeah, here you go, take this.
And having Christian play in that position is perfect, because now people don't have to look. Like, if Christian wasn't there, Michael Bradley would have been there. Michael Bradley playing in a defensive midfield is what you want. That's where he's best at. And by the way, that shot that he took was absolutely gorgeous. All the Michael Bradley haters out there, peace. But him as a defensive midfielder, that's where he belongs. That's where Klinsmann should have always played him. Bruce Arena finally gets it down right and plays him as a defensive midfielder.
I was a little worried about him because he was giving up some balls and making some errant passes and whatnot. But aside from those small things, he was clogging things up pretty well. And it helps that Honduras was just trying to kind of soak up pressure and hope they could go on the counter, and that wasn't really happening. And I think after Leggett went out, which he played pretty well up until Bedoya came in and played right in there, and then I didn't think they skipped a beat at all.
I mean, really, they didn't. And you do want some of those situations to be fixed, especially when you're up against teams that can capitalize. But I like the fact that these are some of the worst things that could happen aside from the injuries. And the fact that even with that, players are getting their roles defined, shake off a little bit of rust, and now you've got some pretty good beginnings of a potential starting 11, maybe A- team going here. Not bad.
And Alejandro Bedoya is the guy that, there's no question that he was going to be the one to replace Sebastian Leggett whenever he's down. Sean, your boy Kellen Acosta, he's on fire, absolutely. But I would definitely have stayed with Bedoya because of the experience that he has over Kellen Acosta. I wouldn't be surprised, though, to see Kellen Acosta get some time in Panama because he's very fast. He's a lot faster than Alejandro Bedoya, and with those Central American defenders and midfielders, they're going to want to have him in there.
Yeah, especially after Panama lost to Trinidad and Tobago, thanks to a MLSer, Kevin Molino, scoring that one goal and got Trinidad and Tobago on the hexagonal win sheet there. Now they're at 3 points. But, that's going to create more urgency for Panama, so you might be right. I mean, especially in the second half, I think Bedoya certainly probably starts. But Costa probably is going to be the guy that spells him, I'm sure, or at least somebody else in that midfield. And I think we can't stop talking about the game without discussing, the play of Tim Howard, who came back. I thought he looked pretty good. And, maybe we got Tim Howard back of old.
Johnny on the spot. I saw a lot of shades of that famous World Cup match against Belgium. Not only just really captaining the team from the back, slowing the pace down a little bit when you need to, calling out where to go, picking his targets in distribution, but never really out of place, scrambling all over, a couple of big saves, especially when Honduras had the rare few chances that they had. I mean, man's back.
Yeah, and you have to look at who he did it with too. He and Jeff Cameron both come back from injuries. They haven't seen the pitch in a while together, at least. So that was a learning curve, even though they've played for a long time together. You still got to get used to each other after injury. And then Jorge Villafana came in the match, and he hasn't played with Howard much, so he did a really good job. He's played with Graham Zusi before, but he's played with Graham Zusi when Graham Zusi was a midfielder, not a right back. Which, by the way, he also should be commended coming in for Jeff Cameron in the second half. He did a nice job holding up as well. Yeah,
I thought Cameron looked really good, because they wanted him to play center back, obviously, but they needed him to play in that spot at right back, being the more seasoned veteran there than Graham Zusi, making sure you don't have liabilities on that side. And, I thought he played pretty well. He went forward, but he played more defensively than, I think Bruce Arena would really want your right back to play. And Villafana didn't go forward as much either, so you had the flat four back there. And I thought Omar was probably the only one that kind of looked iffy at times. But, the rest of them were solid. John Brooks had to make some incredible saves back there, too, before he went out with that dehydration. Thankfully, that was only dehydration because his injury looked scary at first. So, both of them are gone.
And with Brooks now going back, he got sent back to his club as well. At first, Bruce Arena said, no matter what, he's coming to Panama. It doesn't matter. But he and his staff took a minute and realized, okay, maybe it's not for the best. So he's gone. Now, Jeff Cameron will probably be in a center back position now alongside Omar Gonzalez with Brooks back in Berlin.
Yeah, you could think about playing Beezer there, too. He has him and Omar have quite the, experience playing with each other.
I would lean more towards Beasley because while Zusi has really learned fast, maybe this could be working now for him at right back, but no. Having him start the match there, I wouldn't trust it.
You guys think that Bruce Arena kind of stays with the aggressiveness going to Panama? The U.S. is undefeated against Panama in World Cup qualifiers and playing in Panama as well, historically. Or do you think maybe he goes, well, we only need to draw, let's make sure we get that point and go from there?
I think he has to stay aggressive because exactly what you just said was the mindset of Jurgen Klinsmann when they went down to Costa Rica and they lost 4-0. If you're not aggressive, Costa Rica, November 2016, is going to come back and bite them right where the sun don't shine.
At this point, winning the way they did, clean sheet, 6-0, you have breathing room, thanks to tiebreakers, to be more aggressive. And again, who knows? You get that aggressive mentality, 2-0, 2-1, 3-1, all of a sudden you go from no points to 6. Keep the train moving.
Yeah, Panama's going to be without Blas Perez, too. He got hurt before the game against Trinidad and Tobago, so they're going to be out with one of their big goal scorers, but they still got plenty of firepower. I think the U.S. doesn't have to be ultra aggressive. I think they can kind of just play their game a little bit, maybe soak up some pressure because, Panama's going to be in a bit of a desperate situation. They need points. I think they need to make sure they win more than the U.S. does, considering what they've got in front of them. So, maybe the U.S. kind of gets into some fortune there with Panama trying to go forward, being at home and everything, and catching them on the counter or something.
Perfect time, and this is why. Perfect situation. You have a 4-4-2. Stick with it.
Yeah, I think definitely, and I wonder if Josie's going to be okay with sort of playing that same role that we saw him in, where he's sort of he's not totally up front. He's kind of back, letting Pulisic or Dempsey or whoever it is getting up front of him, and him just kind of triggering the pass when it needs to be. I know he kind of plays that way with Toronto as well, so maybe that's a bit more natural for him instead of just we need him to be a target guy and that's what he's supposed to be. Maybe we've been using him wrong this whole time.
You said it. He played that way with Toronto when they got to MLS Cup final. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
So, anything else you guys want to say about the game in general? So far, Bruce Arena looking like the golden goose right now. I mean, they made the right choice, and he's not let them down yet.
I'm willing to say the eggs are somewhere between bronze and silver. If it keeps up, though, and we vault up the standings in the hex, then I'll see him at gold.
What do you think, Rachel? Just
keep it aggressive, honestly. I mean, I'm going to stick with what I said. And if you let your foot off the gas, I mean, it's going to be another 4-0 pounding. So just keep it up. Keep your foot on the gas. Keep healthy. And here's hoping nobody gets injured and or dehydrated.
And especially in Panama, that dehydration could be a bitch.
In Panama, you might get the case of the cramps, dehydration, and all that stuff. You got to be careful with that. So, get that training in and make sure they're ready to go. Something that, also was a problem at times with Mr. Klinsmann. So, moving on from there, it was a 6-0 victory. It was a pounding that I don't think anyone really expected. I mean, they were super excited, but I mean, to win like that is absolutely a statement made, and I really hope that we keep making that statement so that when, June rolls around, people are scared to play the United States once again. But moving on to the state side of league soccer, there was only 3 games that happened on Saturday. Minnesota United once again gets absolutely blasted, this time by the New England Revolution, 5-2. New England at home, their first win of the season. Couldn't pick the better team because Minnesota was missing about, I think, 9 players, and 4 of them to international duty, several of them to suspension. So they were already pretty bad as it was. And then you're missing one of your main goal scorers and even, some as good as you can get defenders. And that game was as one-sided as you could possibly get. I mean, New England was bombing up that left flank the entire game. And, I don't know how much you guys got to see of this, but the only 2 times that Minnesota scored, it was off deflections. They didn't even really create anything from the run and play themselves. So, yikes.
Not to mention 2 of the 5 that the Revs scored were via penalties. So you shoot yourself in the foot defensively, you get barely any luck on offense, and then you do that? There is just no sense of existence, let alone cohesion. As you said, and I had been saying this with Minnesota, at the back, they got way too wide. Then they overcompensated by getting way too compact, leaving all kinds of space along the flank. You're just, ugh. This team, they weren't ready.
Yeah, it was almost interesting, too, because, Juan Agudelo is normally your forward, and he was sort of playing that Josie Altidore role. He was playing off Wynn and Kamara, and he was, he had a couple of chances where he just absolutely missed them. But the goals that did go in for New England, that was enough. And do you guys think that this is kind of what they needed now? I mean, certainly they looked really good going forward. Or is it just about them playing Minnesota and you still have doubts?
Yeah, I don't really think you can count it too much because it is Minnesota. And like you said, Minnesota had 9 of their players missing. And it's Minnesota. I mean, honestly.
I feel like we keep asking this question, but it's there's something Minnesota can do here. I feel like it's just leaking everywhere.
Go back to the NASL? Is that possible? Because
maybe they need to go back there and look for players because,
or maybe they need to go to the USL.
Hey, that didn't start this weekend, so you know.
It did. It was lovely.
I mean, this, and I even heard the announcer say it. Atlanta United, you have 18 months. You put together a team. This is what happens. Minnesota, you don't. This is what happens. I mean, I'm wondering. I'm setting an early line. I don't know how long Adrian Heath will last. Maybe expectations are so low that he sticks around, but at this rate, 4.5 wins for Minnesota United this season? Am I terribly wrong?
What is it? I think they said Chivas gave up 63 goals in 2013, which is the most ever in MLS. And Minnesota already has 18 given up in 4 games.
Okay, 63. So you're looking at about a little over 2 a match. Minnesota is at 4.5 a match. You put that through the entire length of the regular season, you're looking at 153? 153.
Imagine. That would be insane.
They could do it. Don't doubt them. They can do it.
I mean, are we going to see an international record for worst goal differential in any league history? Because if so, then that's just something to hang your hat on.
Man, that's... if I'm Minnesota, please, let's try not to break that record. But who knows?
Hey.
Maybe that'll be why you're memorable.
Look, Minnesota Duluth, they're doing well. I think they're on to the Frozen Four. The Wild are in good position for the playoffs. Right now, they're fine. They've got bigger things to worry about.
They got baseball coming up, too.
Sure. Yeah.
It's probably better than the Loons. Isn't that their nickname? The Loons.
Yeah,
yes.
The Loons.
How appropriate.
Yeah, those players are going to be a bit loony by the time this season ends and things keep going that way.
By the way, I want to add one last note. For anyone that wants to use the Target logo anywhere on your uniform, don't. I've seen this in arena football. Minnesota United's doing it. It doesn't work. It's a curse, I tell you.
Worse than the Madden curse?
Yeah, because the Madden curse only is one player. This affects entire teams.
And usually still with the Madden curse, that player might actually play well. Just they might get hurt or something like that. So, the target's just bad all around.
True.
So, speaking of not so great all around, the Real Salt Lake and the New York Red Bull, they draw 0-0. Real Salt Lake, first game without Jeff Cassar as they bid him adieu after last week's loss. 3 games in. Now, granted, they had a big losing streak to close the end of last season as well. But you get rid of your coach 3 games into the season? I mean, that's a bit much, don't you think?
Well, you mentioned that losing streak. It clearly is carried over, but I think that with a less than inspired performance against the Red Bulls, I mean, don't get me wrong, RSL did have their chances, but to me,
the defense was playing pretty well. They stopped the Red Bull from scoring quite a few times. They ran all the way back to deflect balls and everything else. So I wouldn't say they were uninspired or anything.
Well, uninspired offensively, because for how great their defense was, how much of a hustle I saw, especially creating and winning one-on-one situations against Bradley Wright Phillips that shouldn't have existed. When they had the ball in attack, they seemed very slow. Slow to get second touches, slow to create any passes. They could have easily won that on 1-2-0, but it was just blah. You can't win games -1-0. And I think that's the mindset that RSL has fallen in. So, while things hadn't changed, you need to get some sort of new voice. I don't know how well it's going to work, but they're trying something.
What do you think, Rachel? Do you think they made the right choice?
I think you're going to have to look at another game, give it another game to tell. But, I mean, a change had to come. Whether it came too early or not too early is totally up to the players to decide on the field. And, you know, we'll see how this new interim coach does. And keep in mind, he also didn't have his starting goalkeeper there.
Yeah, I didn't have Kyle Beckerman either. He was out with suspension. But,
No drugs.
Yeah, no Raimondo, no Beckerman, no João Plata. I mean, so they were missing a spine, certainly. But, I mean, I still got to give the defense credit for, and even then, Van Oekel made a few big saves in that game as well.
He did?
You know, the couple of times he was tested. So, certainly learning behind Raimondo has given him quite a bit. And I think, you know, you got to turn this on the Red Bull, too, because they had plenty of chances in front of goal and just it didn't happen. Bradley Wright Phillips kept heading the ball wide, and the new guy, Glunderson, he had quite a few right in front and just mishit it. I mean, so, you know, Red Bull, they haven't looked impressive, but they've somehow they've won or drawn, so they've kind of lucked out, I would say.
Well, I use the word slow to describe RSL in attack. For the Red Bull, they just seem scared. Because, I mean, yes, there were a couple errant headers from Wright Phillips, but you said it yourself. They didn't have the killer touch that would have seen them win yet another match. It's like, something seemed off. And if you have that kind of a match in where these many chances go begging at home, that's a problem.
I mean, and you know, they were missing Sasha Klesterman. He hadn't really been a big player for them so far this season. So, you know, I don't think you can really, you know, pin that on the reason why they lost or anything like that. Whereas with RSL, you could say maybe some of those guys are there. It's perhaps a different story, but I don't know. Lucky for them that they've been winning and they've been getting the points, but I just really feel like, you know, with all the stuff that's been going on in the offseason and everything, Red Bull are off to a shaky start right now.
Luck runs out. That's how it goes. We'll see how Red Bull respond when that luck runs out.
You worried about Red Bull a little bit, Rachel, or?
Not really, because I trust Jesse Marsch and I trust Lasse Kleshten. Especially Jesse Marsch.
He does have that regular season track record, you know, so far. So, I mean, until he proves otherwise, Red Bull will keep marching on. And the last game we got left to talk about here, Columbus, they score one early. They score one after. They score one after Portland does, because Portland's the one that scored early with Asperita scoring just kind of out of nowhere. He just gets the ball in the box, slots it in the left corner. Columbus gets the rebound goal. They get another beautiful just chip over the goalkeeper because I have no idea what the Portland keeper was doing that far out. Rachel, maybe you can help me out here. Why would a keeper need to come that far out and just absolutely just stop right there on the edge of the area? I have no idea.
Maybe for a new scenic view.
A scenic view of that ball going right over
Bored
his head.
with his... Maybe he just got bored and he screwed his team over doing it.
I mean, did that remind anybody else of when they had the shootouts at the end of draws? I'm like, that's really about the only other time I've seen a keeper come out that far and then just freeze.
Yeah, I was like, you're not even going to run at the guy or anything. Just, all right.
It's like, were you waiting? Maybe the ball would find some sort of hidden magnet or something in your hand and you wanted to keep it legit? Or were you like, hey, I'm going to all of a sudden perform this magic trick, Alakazam? Come on now.
Alakazam.
I mean, that was a pretty... Go ahead, sorry.
Like to have fun here.
You know, abracadabra. It's alright. The magic trick was sort of performed by the player that actually hit the ball over his head. But that would be the grand mistake because Portland would get one back, and then Columbus scores right there around the 84th minute with another rebound goal. That was the problem, like, for a lot of this game, was that Portland just really didn't seem on it. They on set pieces, they weren't paying attention to guys just coming in the box and hitting rebounds, and missing Darlington Nagbe is huge, obviously, and David Guzman as well, but just they were not clicking offensively at all.
I mean, credit to Adi kind of stepping up, had a good finish himself, but aside from that, really seeing what Nagbe creates in the middle in transition, because it really just wasn't there.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, he connects things with Valeri and Guzman and, up there with Adi as well. And that finish by Adi was tremendous. Just has four guys around him and still able to turn, hit it, and it goes in the net. Just, that's how you know the dude is on form and how good he is. That it doesn't matter how many people are around him. He's going to score still. But I mean, that's your MLS slate for this week. There's a doubleheader going on Friday as they are getting it in early since almost the entire league was out due to the international week happening. So there's going to be a doubleheader on Friday, games on Saturday and Sunday, back to the big national slate and then normal slate for MLS next week. But we do have one more thing to get to here. One Bastian Schweinsteiger. He's finally signed.
I am sorry. That to me is still like one of these greatest names in sports. I could just roll around and saying, I am Bastian Schweinsteiger. Ha! I would just do that every single day of my life. I wouldn't care what the situation.
I was going to wake up at like 3 in the morning. Bastian Schweinsteiger!
Ha! Add the ha to it, you know?
See, I should understand that because even though I'm not German, my last name's very German. So I get that.
You see?
There you go, yeah. So Schweinsteiger signs a 1-year, $4.5 million deal. They apparently sold him on how much Chicago sucks. Yeah. And that he can turn the team around. That's new.
Well, yes and no, because think about it. what would stroke your ego more if you were the guy? Yes, I have a pimp name. Yes, I just won the World Cup a couple years ago. Yes, my national team is kicking ass, maybe pulling off a potential repeat. Who knows? I get to come and save this team? I get to go and turn this around, and I get to go walk around shirtless and be the man? Hey, sign me up. I'll take $4.5 million if I get that kind of chance.
I mean, he is 32, so he's not, totally aging yet. But you like the signing, Rachel?
Kind of want to get his jersey just to have it. I don't know. I think a lot of it is a marketing technique too for the Fire, because how else are they going to fill up their stands? I mean, they got some more people with Dax McCarthy, but McCarthy isn't enough. I love the signing. I think it's great. He was not used correctly at Manchester United, and when he played, it just was not good. But that is not the Bastian Schweinsteiger that we all know and love.
You're getting there.
I remember Bastian Schweinsteiger from Bayern Munich, and I think that he still has that level in him because, like you said, 32, he's not that old.
Yeah, the age David Beckham came here. He still has some years. Are you a little worried that he only signed a one-year deal, or you think it's one of those, like, he just kind of wants to see the league and...
Yeah, I think it's one of those, and also there is an option on his contract for another season, so that just all depends if he wants to come back, if Chicago wants to bring him back. I think it's good timing. I think it's going to be a let's see what he can do and if he wants to stay type thing.
I mean, Erik, he wasn't playing with Mourinho. Mourinho kind of froze him out and just said, okay, I don't want to play you, sort of the way he's doing Wayne Rooney right now. So, I mean, Chicago's kind of betting their chances that Schweinsteiger still has some left to give. Are you worried about, you got Juninho, you got McCarty, and then you got Schweinsteiger in there. Isn't your midfield getting a little crowded?
Well, I mean, I'm not even so much worried because the freezing out kind of helped in a sense because Mourinho, he flat out says whenever he comes to a team, I'm not going to be the old guy. I'm going to think differently. I have my mindset. I'm going to get players that's going to work. And Schweinsteiger, even though he wasn't there for long, by the time Mourinho came in, he was something of the old guard. But as far as the Fire's midfield, this isn't like the Cosmos of the late 70s where you had all kinds of star-studded names and it got to the point where nobody could get along. I think maybe the Fire might have to tweak their formation just a little bit, but early on in the season, again, another team with low expectations, I think they could get a little chemistry and make some beautiful music together.
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly play, Juninho and McCarty both together sitting, and you can play Schweinsteiger up, in front of them a little bit with the two forwards if you want to, or Schweinsteiger can kind of go back to his old lands of playing on the left if they wanted to do that too. So, I can kind of see the worry a little bit just because you made sure that you brought in both Juninho and McCarty. Now what do you do with bringing in Schweinsteiger as well? But I have a feeling he's going to figure this out.
Yeah, I mean, ideally I would rather see him on the left because he can bring more of that side and that would make counters easier rather than trying to negotiate in what would be, I would guess, a 4-3-1-2 or something of that ilk. But, everything is fluid right now. So the good thing is only 3 matches into the season, especially thanks to the split match day, so there's time. Plenty of time.
Yeah, if he gets the visa and everything ready to go, he could play on the 1st as quickly as that. Any predictions? Do you think he acclimates the league well, or you think he's going to have a few issues at first?
Maybe a couple bumps and bruises, but I think overall he'll do fine.
I think he'll be fine too. I'm really excited to see him and Dax McCarthy working together.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so for him. You know, we don't get the Steven Gerrard syndrome and he comes in and doesn't play as well. But, you know, I think for him, he's going to have motivation because he hasn't played. He's going to want to show that certainly he was brought here with fanfare. He's getting this money. And, you know, let's start the rebuilding trip, right? I mean, you can't finish any worse than last, like you did the last 2 seasons.
And if the Fire are listening, I have some great ideas for some TV commercials, so hit me up. I can make this work for you, and I work cheap.
Wait, I gotta hear these ideas.
Right now, a preliminary thing, involving him, maybe 1-on-5, right on the pitch. Have something epic, almost like 60s Batman type stuff going on the Jumbotron. I got to do a bit more storyboarding before I get the final product right. I'll get back to you.
Hit him up, Chicago.
Gotta have him someone that Chicago deep dish already. You know, if he even eats that, or some sausage or something. That's we got to get that going for him. But
he wouldn't need it, but if he follows my soon-to-be trademark technique, as he's going, he can just shove the deep dish pizza into someone else's mouth. Boom! Problem
just
solved.
yell afterwards.
Well, as he's doing it, it's like, I don't know what to get with this pizza. I mean, it's like, maybe if someone else could just help me decide. All of a sudden, he just breaks through a glass window. I am Bastian Schweinsteiger! Ha! He's like, oh, wow, this is pretty delicious. Can I get me one of these?
That would be great.
See, I tell you, this can work.
Be like the Kool-Aid man. Just go in there and break the wall.
Well, I mean, and the Fire wear red, so you get that easy association. See, you're getting it.
Oh, man. This is great. Great stuff. So, I saw quite a bit of this. People made a bunch of hoopla about Don Garber going down to St. Louis to this rally for them. The planning committee trying to get St. Louis a team as part of the expansion. They're trying to pass this motion that would set funding to go into the soccer-specific stadium, which basically has to happen in order for this to even be considered for the team to be created for MLS. And, Don Garber's kind of going down there, and people are getting upset that he's playing favorites, that he's trying to get one of the cities a team and being kind of partisan. Are you guys kind of seeing it that way, or people just kind of being silly, and he's just trying to I think he's just trying to raise awareness for this. He's trying to make sure that people go and vote for these propositions to get this passed. Because, I mean, if you're Don Garber, you just want a team. I don't think does it really matter where it is?
I would think for him, yes. I mean, especially with a media market, you would have a natural Midwestern rival in Chicago already. You could build that around, like, say, Cubs-Cardinals games, especially as you go into the summer. So I think he's not necessarily playing favorites, but at the same time, he's looking with all the cities that are interested, that have bid, that are getting a grassroots thing. He would like to see St. Louis one of the early historic soccer cities, kind of drum up something of their own rather than being lackadaisical, especially because of what that lackadaisical attitude has let ownership do with other franchises. But I have to raise a separate question. I like the idea of a soccer-specific stadium, but what are you going to do with what I last remembered as Edward Jones Dome now that it's pretty much being unused? I mean, is at least some of that money going into that to use that site, or what?
I think the city owns that land that the Edward Jones Dome is on, if I'm not mistaken. So they could just decide to demolish it if they want to.
Yeah, I mean, demolish or just do something, I don't know, make it more efficient so that way you don't have to go into a situation like Miami is and have another plot of land for another stadium while you have something just sitting there pretty much empty, save for, what, high school games? Maybe a couple college games?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's good for St. Louis to have their own stadium. I'd rather them not be using a football stadium if they don't have to.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm all for the $255 million going in there and then building that stadium if that's what they want to do. And the city already owns that land too, so they wouldn't have to worry about property tax or anything like that getting accumulated on it. So,
yeah, I mean, if they decide to build it on that site, two birds, one stone. So I'd have no qualms.
Well, let's hope April 4th. You think it passes, guys?
Yes.
Yes, but close. It'll be close.
I really hope it does. I think it's overdue that St. Louis has an MLS team, one of the original soccer cities. Let's get them a team and let's get this movement to 28 rolling, as much as it seems weird and not very soccer-ish when we're looking at, leagues around the world. But, hey, this is America. It's what we do.
Exactly. The USL has 30, so... And again, Don Garber.
But the USL has 30 because there's like 12 teams that are MLS owned.
Yes, but what I'm saying is they find ways to make it work. And I'm calling out Don Garber. I have experience in math. I can help create divisions in a schedule because, trust me, with 28 teams, you're going to need it.
We'll have to broach that subject again once we actually get to 28 teams. But we're trying to get to 24, at least, since Miami is just going to be at a standstill forever, it seems like.
Yeah.
Makes me sad.
It makes me sad, too, especially with a lot of backdoor politics and the fact that I could come down there, show everybody all the cards on the table, and at least get the ball rolling within a couple of months. Maybe I'm blind, maybe I'm delusional, but it's like, there's a lot of stuff that I see that if other people see it, it could work.
It's like they keep waiting for the perfect thing to happen. It's like, it's not going to happen. Let's just get the stadium, whichever one you're going to do, either build it or use Marlins Park or
use Marlins Park! For God's sake, they're not.
Yeah, exactly. They're not.
Don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Yes, just get the damn team going so David Beckham can own a team and we can be going in on that already.
He can own a team, show off his tattoos, his wife can hawk whatever, walking around 24/7 in a bikini. I mean, come on. Do I need to spell things out for you people?
My.
Well, Eric put it to you bluntly there, so... you need to make it happen, Miami. You need to make it happen. But anything else you guys want to say on this week in American soccer before we get out of here, guys?
In the USL, the Riverhounds didn't lose. My team didn't lose. And actually, last year it rained during every home game, I think except for 2, and it didn't rain. I think it's a start of something new here, people. And now I feel like singing High School Musical.
Well, that was going to top what I was going to say about the Armada, aside from maybe I don't know. Those times where you're torn between face paint or dyeing your hair. I mean, I've already got a couple cool ideas for some chants going. They're playing at my alma mater this season, so...
I know one of those chants, and viewers, for private reasons, we want the Armada to beat FC Edmonton.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, we do. I unfortunately cannot go for... Go ahead, sorry.
My co-hosts both knew that if they would be rooting for FC Edmonton, I would be driving down to Florida and beating some of them.
Hey, the only Edmonton team I root for... Wait a minute. There is no Edmonton team I root for, so you're okay. I had to think about that. It was like Oilers are mediocre. I can't stand the Eskimos. The Oil Kings, no. Yeah.
Well, I can't cheer for the Oklahoma City, and I can't cheer for Oklahoma in anything, so... FC Dallas's USL team is out of luck on my end there. But, all right. Well, until, I don't know, are you guys doing anything on Tuesday night after the game? Maybe we'll try to do what we were supposed to do on Friday.
I will be working.
You will be working. All right, Erik?
I'll be up, and this time I can guarantee sobriety because it'll be a Tuesday.
I'll let you know when I get off work, and if I can make it, I will be there, and if not, I'm sorry.
Alrighty, so we might see you Tuesday night after the Panama game. We might not, but for sure we'll be there in the midweek at some point, trying to get that thing started. Until then, everybody, see you later. Enjoy your soccer, and go USA.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.